Good day, Huygens. So this video will tell you some of the reminders for long quiz about measurements and vectors. So let's start for some of the general guidelines for the long quiz. Also, please remember all of these and read it carefully. For number 1, you only have 60 minutes to answer the test. Please make sure to have stable internet during the test. That will be on October 23, 2020, Friday at exactly 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Then, in terms of the long quiz itself, there will be 3 parts in the long quiz. All are multiple choices. Part 1 will be 20 items, 1 point each. Part 2 is 3 items, 3 points each. Part 3 is 4 items, 1 point each, and an additional 1 item, which is 6 points each, with a total of 40 item long quiz. Also, make sure to review each item because alterations are not allowed once you have submitted your answers. Show all your solutions and computations in any kind of paper, but after the time allotment, you are going to turn in the pictures through the Google Classroom within the day. So any time of the day after your long quiz, you can turn it on Google Classroom. So please follow the file name, which is your full name, GP1 long quiz 1. Also, please take note of those general guidelines. And now we're going to move on to some of the reminders specifically about the test itself and the topics that you need to study well and focus. But to generalize, please study and read the 2 modules, Module 1 measurements and Module 2 vectors. So you need to read it all from the start because not all the questions in the long quiz are computations. Some are concepts. So you need to study them. Okay, so to be specific, these are the list of the topics you should study. So we have significant figures. So please study the different law and rules that we must consider for us to know how many significant figures are in the specific given measurements or values. Next, we have the conversion and the greatest value and measurements. Conversion, I know you are very familiar with this one, especially some of your scores. Matataas naman talaga sa graded recitation and the performance task 2. So, one application of conversion is greatest value and measurement. So, some questions, tatanong yan, alin kaya dun sa given or sa choices yung malaki yung measurements o malaki yung value. Pero kung titignan, iba-iba sila ng units. So, for you to identify that, you must convert it all na para magkapare-pareha sila ng units so that you can know sino ba yung may pinakamalaking quantity or measurements. Next, also please take note of the errors in measurements. Again, we have 3 kinds of errors, the absolute errors, relative, and percentage errors. Please also take note of the formulas for errors in measurements. And of course, we have accuracy versus precision. Those are the topics under measurements. How about in vectors? We have here the distance versus displacement. Kung natatandaan pa yung dalawang yan, those are quantity na given. And then you're going to identify kung scalar ba siya or vector. Distance is a scalar and then displacement is vector. Kasi pag sinabi natin distance, that refers how much ground or far an object has covered. Kung gaano kalayo in total yung nadaanan niya at napuntahan niya. Pero pag sinabi natin vector, how far out of place an object is in the current position. So, meaning to say na kung gaano siya kalayo dun sa original or sa origin niya, papunta dun sa final position niya na. That's why, ang isa din sa formula natin ng displacement is the overall change in position. Tandaan, ang distance is laging lumalaki yan, lalo na kung madami yung pinagdaanan niya kasi lalaki at lalaki yan kasi you're going to plus. Pero pag displacement, hindi laging tumataas yan kasi pwedeng magkaroon ng pagkakaiba sa direction. So, pag nagbago sila ng directions at magkakontrast sila ng directions, possible na liliit lang yung value niya because we are talking about that change. And then, obviously, we have scalar versus vector. The scalar is the magnitude only and the vector is with direction. Please also study some examples or what are the examples of the scalar quantity and the vector quantity. And then we have vector components. This one, I'm expected na you are very familiar with this one. When we say vector components, hahanapin si fx and fy. Tatandaan lang, dalawang formula lang naman natatandaan. Fx will always be equal to f cosine theta, and then fy is f sine theta. So fx and fy, those are the vector components. When we have fx, we call it as the horizontal component, and if we have fy, we call it as the vertical component. So please take note of that. Then last, we have the resultant vector. Under resultant vector, we have the magnitude, wherein you're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. This one, familiar. We use v is equal to x squared plus y squared and then square root of the sum. So, kahit anong variable naman yung gamitin nyo doon, it doesn't matter as long as nag-squared and then sum and then square root. And then for getting the angle, you have the inverse tangent y over x. Please take note, that is y over x. So, in overall, you just need to remember two formulas in vector components as well as two formulas in resultant vector. Other reminder, okay, in terms of getting resultant vector plus the angle or the magnitude plus the angle, in our long quiz, ang pinapahanap sa inyo ay reference angle. Now, ano po yung ibig sabihin ng reference angle? Yung mga pinapakuha ko sa inyo angle before, that is the true angle. In terms of diagram, pag dinrawing nyo siya at mineasure nyo ng protractor, and kung saan siya may pinakamalapit, kung saan yung pinakamalapit na axis niya, in relation lang siya dun sa pinakamalapit na axis. That's why it is the true angle. But here in long quiz, since reference angle yung pinapakuha, paano po yung gagawin niya? So, ganito po yung gagawin. So, let's have an example here. Okay, this one, we have an example. So, find resultant force 50 Newton west and 120 Newton south. So, we're going to draw it first. Actually, example na din to dun sa graded recitation para magkaroon po kayo ng idea at pamilya na kayo. So, we have 50 Newton on the x-axis negative, and then we have 120 Newton lies in the negative y. Okay, so we're going to find the resultant vector by using Pythagorean, which is again x squared plus y squared, then square root. We're going to put the value inside the formula. So negative 50 squared plus negative 120 squared will be equal to 130 Newton. So with that, our diagonal of the resultant vector here is 130 Newton. Now let's move on to the angle, which is, or the inverse tangent y over x. Tandaan, ang y ay yung 120, which is the vertical one, and the 50 is the horizontal component, which is x. So, inverse tangent 120 over negative 50. Then, both of them are negative. That's why we have a positive angle, which is 67.38. Now, question, bakit daw po kaya merong formula na nag-absolute value siya? Now, yes, it doesn't matter naman if you have the absolute value or not. Actually, here, kasi ang pinapakuha ko is for you to visualize kung bakit ba nagkakaroon ng negative angles. And as you can see here in our diagram, since we have 67.38, positive siya, makikita nyo na yung kanyang rotation o yung angle niya is counterclockwise. That's why positive siya. Since yung pinakamalapit kasi na axis, which is the negative x-axis, ang kanyang kinonsider na pagme-measurean ng angle niya. That's why naging 67.38. Now, question, paano daw po kaya kapag reference angle na yung hinahanap? So, pag sinabi mong reference angle, ang pagbabasihan mo is si positive x-axis. This one. Kaya kung makikita nyo, kung meron ka dyang Cartesian plane, yung right side ni x, ang laging basihan ng pagme-measure nung angle simula sa kanya. Kasi nga, reference angle in relation with the x positive axis. So, kung meron tayong 67.38 na true angle, we're just going to get the value na dapat kasama na si x-axis yung mula sa x-axis. So, ang gagawin mo dyan, kasi since nasa third quadrant lang naman yung mineasure na 67.38, you're going to plus 180 degree. Tama po ba? Kasi ang gusto natin mangyari ay makasama tong nasa taas or simula dun sa x. Kaya naging 67.38 plus 180. So that will have 180 plus 67.38. We have 247.38 and that is the reference angle. With your long quiz, reference angle yung hinahanap. Now, another question is, ma'am, paano po malalaman kung 180, lagi bang plus 180 po yun? Siyempre ay hindi. Meron po yung mga conditions. Pero question, lagi bang kailangan pa muna ma'am na i-graph bago malaman ang ipa-plus sa kanya o ima-minus? Hindi. Kasi meron po tayo dito rule. So, let's have the rule. Okay. So, kung napansin nyo, yung x and y natin is 50 Newton and 120 Newton. Both 50 Newton is negative and 120 Newton is also negative. Tama ba? So, ito yung basehan. So, if we have here a Cartesian plane, we have different quadrants. Pamilya na kayo dito, which is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. So, kapag nasa quadrant 1 ka, ibig sabihin yung x and y components mo, both positive. Kung nasa quadrant 2 ka naman, is negative and positive x and y. Then, yung third quadrant naman, parehas silang negative. And then, yung fourth quadrant or quadrant 4 is positive, negative. So, titignan nyo lang si x and y components nyo kung positive or negative ba siya. Tapos, kung saan ba yung patak niya sa quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. Pag alam nyo na yun, madali na. So, ayan yung formula natin. Kung nasa quadrant 1 yan, wala kang dapat baguhin sa true angle. Kung ano yung nakuha mo, as is na yon. And then, with quadrant 2, kung ano yung nakuha mo, kailangan mong i-minus si angle sa 180. And then, for quadrant 3, you're going to add the 180. Same nung ginawa nating example dito sa 50 Newton and 120 Newton. And then, for quadrant 4, you're going to minus the true angle to from 360 para makuha natin yung total reference angle niya. So, huwag kayong mag-alala kasi hindi naman dikit-dikit yung mga choices sa long quiz. Napakadaling i-identify kung alin ba yung resultant vector tapos may angle. Ano po? So, bigyan pa natin ng isa pang example para mas mag-gets nyo po. So, we have here an example. Katulad lang din to nung last graded recitation. Okay. So, we have finding A plus B plus C. We have 300 Newton, 180 degree, 400 Newton, 270 degree, 500 Newton, 250 degree. So, again, we're going to find the vector components muna para makuha natin yung x and y niya. Then, madali na yung resultant force. Then, with that Vx, we have 21.39 Newton. So, hindi ko na ito masyadong i-classify because I know na you are familiar with this one. By is equal to negative 16.19 Newton. So, take note, our resultant force here is 27.31 Newton. And then, our angle is inverse tangent, taas ang y, which is negative 16.98 over 21.39. So, bakit ko laging sinasabing nasa taas yung y? Kasi ang dami pa rin nagkamali doon. So, sana naman ay makorek nyo na at please don't be careless sa pagsasagot. Then, makakakuha ka dyan ng 38.44 degree. Negative 38.44 degree. Ngayon, tignan po muna natin si Vx and si Vy para malaman natin kung ano yung reference niya. Since positive si x and then negative si y, siya ay pumatak sa quadrant. Okay? Positive si x and then positive si x and then negative si y is papatak sa quadrant 4. That's why ang magiging formula natin is i-minus natin yung nakuhang angle sa 360. Pero again, do not mind the negative of the true angle. Ang ibig sabihin lang naman kasi nun is the direction nung 38.44. Kung counterclockwise siya or clockwise. Pero since ang gusto mo na makuha yung reference angle, don't mind the negative sign of the true angle and then direct minus from 360 and that will have 321.56 degree. So, let's check. Halimbawa, ipa-plot natin yung ating x and y coordinates. Makikita nyo yung 121.39 and then yung 16.98, rather 21.39. Kung mapapansin nyo, pag ginrap natin siya, yung nasa loob talaga, which is clockwise rotation, is 38.44. That's why, tama na negative siya. Pero tignan natin yung reference. So, pag tinignan mo naman yung reference, talagang malaki siya, kaya umaabot siya ng 321.56 degree. So, tandaan, kung halimbawa wala sa choices at hinahanap yung angle, try nating hanapin ang reference. So, ibig sabihin, reference yung hinahanap. Ano po? So, that's all for the reminders. Another additional is, please don't be careless. Always check your calculator's input. And please make a double check or triple check entering it or inputting your data or numbers in calculator. And obviously, unit, don't forget that. Especially, yes, that's all. And thank you, Huygens, and good luck, everyone.